Ready?
Yeah.
We need to start thinking about how we're going to start these off. Hey guys, thanks so much for jumping on over here to 2 Awesome Men. Today we saw Venom. Welcome to Carnage. Today we saw Venom. Welcome to Carnage.
I can imagine them playing the Welcome to the Jungle
Yeah.
song if it was called that.
Welcome to the Carnage.
What were you saying?
My name is Woody Harrelson.
He was like, we didn't plan out how we're going to say it. And then he said the same thing I'll say all the time.
But I didn't get to say it all the way. I said it, but then I said welcome to Carnage, and I realized, I messed up there, and I stopped. It always gets really awkward. I was in, we saw the Venom. Like obviously, who knew you saw Venom? It's not like it was in the thumbnail or on the title of your stupid video.
Maybe it's clickbait. And then y'all are going to talk about lamb.
Yeah. Like the food.
No, the movie that just came out.
The
I guess there's also like an animal talk. There's also an animal called lamb, isn't there?
The food.
You know that lamb is made out of the animal lamb, right?
Wait, hold on. Is the animal made out of the food, or is the food made out of the animal?
The food's made out of the animal. The food is the animal.
Technically, the animal's made out of the food.
Yeah, Brady.
But it just feels so weird when I say, we just saw Venom.
Venom.
I know I don't usually say it like that, but maybe we should start doing it. A whole video. We just saw Venom. Venom, it could have been a lot better. I didn't think Woody Harrelson was a good choice. Yeah.
Why do you sound like Mickey Mouse?
Is that what Disney's thinking right now?
Yeah.
And then y'all get a copyright claim.
Yeah. We can just do it for now, but like...
do that voice?
Yeah. Until we can think of something better. We'll do that voice. By the way, are we sinning? We didn't even check that yet. We are not.
Are we sinning?
Are we sinning? Go to the left.
Are y'all sinning?
By the way, are we sinning?
Are we sinning? We better be sinning. If we ain't sinning, we ain't winning. It's like our arms. It's like different parts of our bodies are centered. It's really weird. So, what's wrong with us?
Do you really want me to answer that question?
Hey guys, thank you so much for jumping on over here to 2 Awesome Men. A few days ago, I honestly don't know when we saw it. Was it a few days ago?
It's like a week ago.
A week ago. We're getting closer and closer to having these videos up whenever
the day after.
The day after. Gradually, it'll happen. Actually, I don't know if we'll ever do the day after. At least 2 days after, I think we should wait. But we just saw
Venom.
Venom Carnage.
Venom Carnage.
Venom.
You're about to say welcome to Carnage.
Welcome to Carnage.
Welcome to the Carnage.
Venom. There will be carnage. What was it? Let there be carnage. Will there be carnage?
The answer is there's not. It's rated PG-13.
Next question. Will there be carnage? No, Venom. Let there be carnage. There you go. So I do want to start this off by talking about not like a whole in depth or anything, by just stating that we didn't like the first one. And my cup's right in the shot. Let me move this out. Oh my goodness. we didn't like the first one almost at all. I would say the only thing I liked about this, and I didn't even love this about it, I just think it was like the only thing that kind of had something to it,
right,
was the conversation between Eddie Brock and Venom in the first one. Mm-hmm. I do want to say that I did think this movie was better than the first one, but it's not saying a whole lot.
Yeah.
Because we really didn't like the first one. And I would start by saying that, again, in this one, probably the best aspect of it was the Eddie Brock and Venom conversations. And I do think they were even better in this one than in the first one.
Right, yeah. Some of it actually made me laugh.
Yeah.
Whereas in the first one, I enjoyed it in the first one, but there wasn't anything that like truly made me laugh. Whereas in this one, there's parts that actually made me laugh. And it's kind of funny because there was a point in the middle of the movie where I could feel myself losing a lot of interest in this movie. And like I wasn't really sure what it was, but then the more I thought about it, it was because Eddie Brock and Venom separated.
Oh yeah,
during like a big portion of the middle of the movie.
Yeah, and unfortunately, that was them trying to make this movie more interesting, but it just made it less interesting.
Exactly. But I do want to bring out one of our biggest complaints about this movie, because I feel like we're going to bring up a lot.
Yeah.
Because it bleeds into a lot of our other complaints about the movie.
Yeah, and I do want to say just a real quick thing. There's we're probably going to get into spoilers with this.
Right, yeah. So spoiler
Yeah,
alert.
it's kind of hard for us not to get into spoilers with
Yeah,
this.
especially with how short this movie is.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is actually going to be what I'm going to bring up.
Yeah.
The fact that this movie is an hour and a half long, it doesn't give it time to really do a lot of stuff that it needs to do, or that I feel like they wanted to do, because like it feels so rushed.
Yeah.
And like I said, a lot of our complaints that we're going to talk about kind of stem from the fact that it was an hour and a half.
I do think this movie could have been 30 minutes to even maybe an hour longer, going up to 2.5 hours. And for my first complaint I want to bring up is, so Carnage is supposed to be a very, very dangerous and very, very powerful character. And in the movie, I think understands that, and it kind of tries to bring that up. But there's like one scene, and I do really like that scene, where he's escaping from prison.
Right.
That's probably my favorite scene in the movie.
Yeah, Carnage honestly was really terrifying in that scene.
Yeah.
Even though they didn't show any blood because it's PG-13, they don't want to push any boundaries at all. Even though they said that they did.
Yeah.
It's still him, like the character himself, was really creepy and terrifying in that moment.
Yeah. Which, just a quick tangent. Just a quick tangent here. When did PG-13 movies just stop having blood in them?
Yeah, I don't know.
Like back in the day, PG-13 movies, it wasn't like a gore fest or anything, but PG-13 movies used to have like a little bit of gore in there. I just want to quickly say that real quick. They used to have some gore in there.
Yeah, because and people might say, "Oh, it's not that big of a deal if they didn't have gore and all that." But I feel like gore, especially with a character like Carnage, would make him even more terrifying, because you see the reality of all that he's doing.
Yeah,
so it makes it a lot more scary.
Yeah, and I'll say this, and it's mainly because I didn't really hear what he said at the point. There's a part whenever he eats like the priest or something like that.
Oh yeah, towards the end.
And I honestly didn't even realize he ate the priest. Because, like I said, I didn't really understand what he said, but it didn't show it in any way.
Yeah, like cut away. Like I can't remember exactly what they did.
Yeah, and it didn't even like show him like grab and open his mouth,
Yeah,
and then cut. It was like really quick, like a side thing, like real quick, and I barely even noticed it. And I'm like, did he eat him? I don't know. Like, it was hard to tell, and then I figured out he did. But back to what I was saying is that Carnage is supposed to be a really powerful and very, very dangerous character. Like I said, in that scene, it kind of shows that, yeah, he is. But because of the fact that this movie is only an hour and a half, there's only one fight scene.
Yeah, between him and Venom.
Yeah, between him and Venom. And it's very rushed. And because of the fact that there's only one fight scene and he was able to defeat him so easily, I don't want to say extremely easy, but relatively easily, it really downplays how dangerous of a character, how powerful of a character he actually is.
Right.
And also you had brought this up and I looked it up, and I found, like, I do want to say we're not huge comic buffs,
Yeah.
But I looked it up too, and then that Cletus Cassidy and Carnage actually have like a much stronger bond than Venom and Eddie Brock do. And in this movie, it was almost like another thing of like, we only have an hour and a half. We need to figure out some easy way for them to win.
Right.
And it's like, it turns out they have a really weak bond.
Exactly.
Which is completely against the comics.
Yeah. Which also makes them a lot less cooler.
Yeah.
Just the fact that, because I think like, I could be wrong, but I think growing up, I remember hearing that like, because you know how Venom and Eddie Brock, they say we a lot.
Yeah.
That's like a big thing for them. But I think like Carnage says I, because their bond is so tight.
Yeah, exactly.
So it kind of takes away from that and his power.
As interesting of an aspect this was to the movie, with it only being an hour and a half, I think they should have taken out his girlfriend, Cletus Cassidy's girlfriend. Mm-hmm. I do think, like I said, she's a very interesting aspect of the story. And definitely could have added a lot. But with them having so much stuff in this movie, it really, you don't ever feel anything for anything, And I feel like if they took that out, I'm not going to even act like that would have been a huge, made this movie great or anything. Right. But it definitely would have added something to other plot lines. Right. Instead of just randomly throwing stuff out, it would have given them time And it's sad because, like I said, that was actually an interesting aspect, but we didn't have time for that.
Did y'all have an
Well,
issue with understanding what Venom and Carnage were saying? Because a lot in that movie, I couldn't understand what they were saying.
It was one of those things where like when you hear something you don't understand it, but then like a few seconds later you're like, oh, that's what he said. Yeah, that happened a lot to me during this movie.
Yeah,
there were a few times where I didn't know what he said, but that happens a lot to me in movies in general. But it was hard to understand it sometimes, but I was able to figure out what he said.
Like I missed, even though the jokes weren't great, I missed a lot of the jokes because I didn't know what he said.
And that does kind of bring me to this pitch that I really want to bring to this movie, because I feel like this movie had a lot of pieces that were actually really good, and I could see this movie being actually a good movie if they went a different route. The biggest thing, if they made it longer than an hour and a half.
Yeah.
And another big thing I feel like they should have done was keep Cletus Cassidy in prison for longer, for a lot more of the movie, because you don't really get that many conversations between him and Eddie Brock that much, and especially weakens that impact at the end whenever Cletus Cassidy tells Eddie Brock that he just want to be his friend. But even though they only had like one or two conversations in the movie, so I feel like you could have had him be in prison for a lot longer of the movie, build up the fact that he is a serial killer, because they didn't really build that up either.
Yeah.
The fact that he was a serial killer. I mean, they said it, they mentioned it, but it wasn't really explored as much as it should have been. Mm-hmm. So you could have really dived deep into his mindset while he's in prison, between him and Eddie Brock.
Yeah.
And I really feel like they should have waited to reveal Eddie Brock finding the bodies, because I feel like that kind of cheapened the impact of that too.
Yeah.
Because like it was like Cletus Cassidy mentioned it like once.
Yeah.
And then like a few seconds later, Eddie Brock found the body and they moved on from that.
Yeah, it's almost like they're like, Cletus Cassidy is a serial killer. You want proof? Okay, we'll just show a scene of people saying he killed someone.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, we'll just show a scene of people saying we found bodies. That means he's a serial killer.
Right, exactly. You know? Yeah, so I feel like they could have stretched that out a little bit more, dive deeper into his psychology and everything. And in the meantime, during that whole time that Cletus Cassidy's in prison, since you can't have him be Carnage fighting Venom, you could have his girlfriend Shriek, was that her name?
Yeah.
You could have her like break out of prison or something just on her own towards the beginning of the movie, and have her be fighting Venom and still have that action throughout the first half of the movie, so that the audience isn't bored. And it would make a lot more impactful whenever he does break out of prison and the fight scene at the end, because you've been building up this character a lot more. So just the whole climax would be a lot more epic because you've been building it up a lot longer and better.
You brought up that he randomly just throws out the fact that he wanted to be his friend.
Yeah.
He also I will say earlier in the movie, they do kind of bring it up that his father abused him, but they never really brought up that he was pretty much abused by his whole family until the end. Right. All of a sudden he is like, I always think about because pitch meeting, the screen rant.
Oh, yeah.
He's like,
so then they're about to kill Cletus, and he's like, hey, nobody asked, but I was abused, and also I wanted to be your friend.
What?
I don't know. I figured I should take a shot at making the villain sympathetic. I realized at this point in the script that I forgot to kind of develop the character.
Whoops.
Whoopsie.
It's almost like how it was, how they presented it. It's like all of a sudden he's like, my whole family abused me, all the end. And it's like, well, how are we supposed to feel anything for this? You're at the climax of the movie, and you're telling us information for us to care about you all of a sudden.
Right.
You know?
Yeah, exactly. And especially because like you never got that feeling from their conversations in the beginning. I mean, they did have like 2 conversations, I think, in prison, but it never really dived into that relationship very well.
Yeah, the relationship just kind of felt like the normal like I don't know, I'm saying this in a very, very vague sense, but like a Joker and Batman thing,
right? Where
Joker's not necessarily like wanting to be friends with them, you know. He's just trying to like, you know, he's all like he just feels something different for Batman, and you know, I don't know how to explain it, but like in that sense, that's kind of almost the kind of feeling you felt between Eddie Brock and him and Cletus Cassidy. And I mean that in a very, very, very basic sense. But, you know, but you never felt like the true sense of like, he actually like cared about him. He actually cared about Eddie Brock. He actually wanted to be friends with him. You know, you never felt any of that. I think there was like a thing whenever he's like, I like you or something like that. But like, okay, like, great. Like, am I supposed to make, okay, like, oh, he wants to be friends with them. Like, no, like, no, that's just something that someone who wants to be creepy says, you know? And so, yeah. And another thing I do want to bring up is I don't think that Woody Harrelson was a good choice for Cletus Cassidy.
Yeah, he did better than I thought. I mean, it's not like I like didn't have faith in him because he's a good actor, but I didn't think I agreed with you that I didn't think it was a good choice. He did better than I thought he was going to do, but I still feel like they could have chose somebody else, like a Cameron Monaghan or a Caleb Landry Jones.
Oh yeah, exactly. Which unfortunately, because they went the route where he was younger and now he's supposed to be older,
right? Yeah,
you know. And so maybe if they're going for like an older actor, sure, someone else, but like. I don't think he was awful, don't by any means. I still don't really think he was a great choice for him. And then there's also that weird scene. Like I said, this movie's very rushed. So they're like, okay, he needs to find this girl. How is he going to find the girl that he's in love with? Oh, he'll just have Carnage stick his fingers in some dude's computer. Yeah, right. Like Carnage
is he Ultron now?
Yeah, exactly. Like he has some special access to the internet. Yeah, like just let's just make that connection. Eddie Brock, he bites Eddie Brock's hand, so some of Eddie Brock's blood gets him. He becomes Carnage, and I guess somehow or another that has the access to internet that nobody else has.
Right.
You know, and it's just a very, very cheap way of doing things. But yeah, overall, like I will say, like, yeah, this movie should have been longer. Is that one complaint? I mean, I do have other complaints, but is that one like complaint to sound weird to talk about? Not really, but because a lot of issues stem off of that. It
was not really explained why Carnage hated Venom, but it was kind of like when they were trying to like bring people there for revenge.
Oh yeah, that is true. I forgot about that. Yeah, they just like had this weird thing where like he wanted revenge for what? What do you do?
Yeah,
he wanted revenge for Cletus
just
Cassidy
because he's his father.
Yeah, or he wanted revenge because Cletus Cassidy bet Eddie Brock. I don't know, or like because he was his father.
Yeah,
like I don't.
I mean, maybe if they had it to where Cletus Cassidy and Carnage had a strong bond, it would make sense.
Yeah,
because Cletus Cassidy was angry at Eddie Brock.
Yeah.
But the fact that they didn't have a weak bond, it didn't make sense.
Or if they had one more freaking fight scene.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
Maybe something, but nothing. He's like, all of a sudden, I hate him. You haven't even met. What are you talking about?
Right.
He just kind of flew off of him and went and got into Cletus Cassidy. I just think that was stupid. Like, they never even had like any other scene together. So like, what do you hate him so much for?
Right.
Like, what am I supposed to be getting out of this?
Yeah, and also it goes back to the reason why, well, not the reason why, but one of the reasons why we weren't big fans of the first one. The fact that they changed like the origin story of like Venom and all that, and like they don't have that deep connection with Spider-Man and all that. With this one, it kind of takes away from Carnage also, because the fact that Carnage is so powerful that Spider-Man and Venom have to team up quite a bit in the comics to fight him.
But overall, for me, this movie is just it's kind of sad because like even though I like this movie more than the first one, I do think this movie had a lot more potential to be better, to be good than the first one did.
Right.
Because the first one I watched it and like obviously you can make any movie good. Okay, just right off the bat, you can make any movie good. Mm-hmm. But based off of the movie that they had for us in the first movie, if they want to use all those pieces they had, there wasn't a lot to do with it. There wasn't a lot to actually make a good movie with in the first one. In this one, there was just a lot of actual very interesting aspects to this movie. Like we were saying, like Cletus Cassidy in the movie is a very interesting character. A lot of things are very interesting in this movie. It's just that they just wanted to rush everything. And like I said, you could really feel like they had like a checklist for this movie. They're like, okay, like before they even wrote the movie, they just went a checklist, like done. And that's really what you feel in this movie because of how rushed it is. And honestly, even though I like this movie more than the first one, it makes me angrier than the first one. Mm-hmm. Not while watching. While watching, I didn't hate myself while sitting there, mm-hmm. As in the first one I did. But as I'm, it's been like a week since we've watched this movie, and it gives you time to kind of sit and think about it. It makes me angrier than I was after I watched the first one,
right?
Because of how much potential it actually had, and it actually like they actually had good, at least people like the people coming up with all the ideas, like the story writers. Those were actually like good writers, but like whenever they put everything together, they're like,
right? Yeah, they didn't know how to put it together.
Yeah, exactly. I don't really understand why they made it an hour and a half.
Yeah,
I don't know. To me, it's almost insulting a lot of things like this because I almost feel like they think that the audience attention spans are very low and short.
Right.
And so that's why they didn't do stuff like make it 2 hours. That's why they didn't do stuff like have Cletus Cassidy be in jail for longer.
Yeah.
You know, that's why they didn't do stuff like really linger on scenes, really linger and try to get you to know these characters. It's like, oh, audience just want the action.
Yeah.
You know?
And I wouldn't be surprised if it was Sony saying, oh, we need to make a lot of money, so let's just make it as short as possible so we can have a lot more showtime.
Yeah,
throughout the
exactly.
day.
Yeah. And so that's what's really irritating. And like you said, it's Sony. So there wouldn't be any surprise if that's what they were really doing. And they didn't really have respect for the audience and their attention spans on films. And one thing I do want to bring, and I don't want to trash him or anything like that, because Tom Hardy's a really good actor. And I don't think he was bad at this, but there's just something about his acting that's very strange in this movie. And I understand what he's going for.
Mm-hmm.
At times, it just feels a little too much.
Yeah.
You know?
Or it's a little bit too over the top.
Yeah, I guess, yeah.
I do feel like he did better in this one than the first one, but yeah, he did still have that aspect that I was like, all right, he's doing a little too much.
Yeah, because I think they're almost they're going for this idea of making him seem like almost mentally insane, but also trying to make it funny. And so those two things are hard to completely put together. It's possible to do, and so they make him do his acting a lot more over the top, you know. And so like which things like Deadpool it works for because it's a very strange and wacky character,
right?
But this kind of thing I don't think the over the topness of his acting doesn't completely work. It wasn't bad, don't get me wrong, and you know it isn't like a completely like. It's not completely distracting, but there's times where I feel like it should be a little more grounded in the acting.
Oh my goodness. Jesus.
You sound like Eddie Brock when he has Venom.
Oh, yeah.
That's another thing that bothers me. I understood in the first one, right? Because he wasn't used to Venom being in him.
Yeah.
Like part of him, but like in this movie I feel like they've gotten used to each other, but he was still acting like all like twitchy and things.
Honestly, another thing that kind of irritated me was how they just killed Cletus Cassidy at the end of this. I feel like it'd be a lot interesting, much more interesting that they kept Cletus Cassidy alive after
Right,
this.
Exactly, yeah. Especially since you only had that one fight.
Yeah,
it would have been a lot more interesting if he stayed alive. And I think I've seen Andy Serkis say this, which Andy Serkis directed it. I think I read somewhere where he said that, we kind of left it open at the end because in the comics, only a drop of blood was needed to bring Cletus Cassidy back to life. But I feel like that's like a lazy way to go about it.
Yeah.
But that's like a way of like, we probably shouldn't have killed Cletus Cassidy, so let's just bring him back to life.
Yeah.
All right, and just in case you've made it this far and you haven't seen the movie and you don't truly want to know everything, even though we've talked about a lot already, this is going to be a massive spoiler. Just in case you haven't seen it, there's your huge warning right now. But the after credit scene of this movie kind of jams Venom into the MCU.
Yeah.
I don't fully understand. I mean, I guess whenever he gets teleported to a different room or whatever, it's that moment in No Way Home trailer whenever Doctor Strange messes up the spell or whatever.
Yeah.
I guess that's what happened in that moment. That's when he gets teleported to this universe.
Yeah.
But Venom is now going to be in the MCU.
Yeah.
Well, supposedly, unless it's Sony going behind Kevin Feige's back and putting that scene in here.
Yeah.
But he's not going to be in the MCU. He's most likely going to be in No Way Home, just based on this end credit scene.
Yeah. Which, I mean, if you really think about it, it doesn't make a ton of sense. Just because, like, each year in like the other Spider-Man movies, they have other Spider-Man villains coming in. But even though Venom is technically a Spider-Man villain, he doesn't have anything to do with Spider-Man.
Right. Yeah.
You know, like at all. He has nothing to do with Spider-Man right now. It's just a weird option. I will say, as much as I do hate the idea that they're not going to go with the actual origin of Venom, and I really wish they would. I think I brought it up. I don't know if I brought it up before. I always felt like it would have been a great idea if Eddie Brock was that one guy in
Brad.
Yeah, Brad.
In Far From Home.
Yeah, in Far From Home. I always felt like it would have been the perfect build-up to Eddie Brock's character.
Yeah.
If that was Eddie Brock. Because Peter pretty much embarrassed in front of the whole class, almost ruined his reputation.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they already had that rivalry between Peter and Brad, and then once you have Spider-Man and Venom have their rivalry, it would be a nice introduction to it all.
Yeah, and so like instead of just introducing Eddie Brock right away, you already have that in the movie before. I felt like that would have been great. But that's kind of another argument, another thing I have.
Yeah.
But in regards to this alone, I do think that even though I'm not happy about it, as long as No Way Home is a good movie, if Venom's in it, it seems like he is going to be in it. And it seems like he might be trying to attack Spider-Man.
Yeah, which would make sense considering he would think that Spider-Man's a murderer and a bad guy.
Yeah.
At the same time, I really don't see how they're going to have Eddie Brock and Peter Parker have a rivalry right now because Eddie Brock's a grown man and Peter's still in high school.
Yeah.
So that part, and even watching this, I came up with like a kind of a good way that they could have done it since they're not going to have the comic book origin. But this movie would have had to come out a few years later whenever Peter's a little older in the MCU, because you could have had, because in this movie, Eddie Brock works for the Daily Bugle, and he kind of made a name for himself whenever he found the bodies that Cletus Cassidy had killed and buried. And that story went into the Daily Bugle. So he's kind of made up his name. And so you could have had Peter come in and start working at the Daily Bugle and have somehow caused him to lose his reputation. Yeah. So you could have still had that build up if Peter Parker wasn't still a teenager in high school.
Yeah.
And then you already had Venom and Eddie Brock kind of at odds with each other in this movie. I mean, they kind of made up at the end, which kind of ruins that too, because you could have had them still be at odds and then help Venom go to Spider-Man and be with Spider-Man for a little bit and then have Spider-Man reject him and still have that origin story too.
So yeah, I mean, I really do wish they had gone with the thing of Brad, like I was saying. But you know, I guess if No Way Home is a good movie, I'll just deal with it. I think it will be. I mean, obviously it looks pretty good, but we've only seen one trailer, and I like I said, I hope we don't get another trailer. You know,
right? Yeah,
but,
for sure.
You know, if it's good, I'll deal with it. I know a lot of people won't, but I'll deal with it. You know, I just wish they would have gone with the actual origin. Okay, so overall, guys, I really don't think this is that good a movie. I will say, at a very basic level, it is entertaining enough. And if you're going to this movie strictly for entertainment purposes, I think you'll get enjoyment out of it. I have seen people who get enjoyment out of this. A decent amount of people like this. We are going to say that Venom, Let There Be Carnage is 40% awesome. I did think about one thing earlier, but I can't remember. Oh no! Well, guys, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Also, comment and let us know what you thought about Venom. Which one did you like? Which one did you like more, Venom 1 or Venom Let There Be Carnage? There you go. That's your cue to.
Oh, okay.
I don't think the first Venom was called Venom 1.
Yeah, Venom 1.
And don't forget to follow us on social media. We have Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok, all at 2 Awesome Men.
And as always, thank you so much for watching, and you will see us later.